I've always had a really sparked interest in what is commonly known as the deep web. And though the deep web has some good uses, it also has an incredibly dark side too. The dark web is a small corner of the deep web, containing the stereotypical content, bulk drugs, CP, etc., that the deep web is notorious for. I took my first steps into this little excavation of mine into the darkest part of anonymous sites under the surface of web browsing, in an attempt to undermine the stereotype that the deep web is more of a home to dark, illegal websites than anything good. Well, I came out of this with more than I ever could have expected, and now my view on humanity in general has forever been changed. It took me quite a while, 3 through 4 weeks, to get enough information to really start delving deep into what I will now refer to as the dark web, the small corner of the deep web that is basically the house of horrors. Lots of talking around, honing information from chat rooms, and taking lots of notes. Even had to make a couple of phone calls to some more than shady individuals. Not a comfortable experience. By the end of my trek of gathering as much information as possible at the time, and getting a good contact list, I took my first steps into the outer layer of the dark web, so to speak. The hard part is that once you get deeper, a lot of sites have ever-changing URLs, extensive invitation queues, and at times, pricey entrance costs that may or may not end up cash spent on some phony operation. A lot of it is luck, meeting people at the right time and place, and taking good notes. I had a good stroke of luck and took good notes, enough to get me to the places I entered. But what I did notice is once I got into the first site that I will now talk about, it became much easier to get into the other sites, as it was much more freely talked about and information was passed around much more. Chat rooms in the dark web are information honey holes. The first site, Centrix. I knew I had broken the barrier when I got into Centrix. Centrix was one of the more well-known general markets, so to speak. A good example to compare it to would be Agoraphobe or Silk Road. Now Centrix, from what I hoarded via a lot of questions on chat over the period of a couple days, has been around for 11 months and has been untouched by any means of being shut down, which surprises me because it has everything from Agoraphobe to Silk Road, but to a much greater extent and a lot more variety. What some sites dedicate their wholesaling products to be, Centrix had subcategories for. Just a brief few examples. Snuff films, bulk drugs, all varieties, fake everything, IDs, licenses, you name it. A very sensory section of CP, various illegally obtained membership, Netflix, porn, etc., and the list goes on. Another thing that is a bit chilling is the fact that they took a great effort to crack down on scams. The big deal on sites like Agoraphobe and Silk Road is that they have a lot of scam vendors. This site didn't, and they had a lot of proof to back it up, but I won't go into detail. Samples, intros, etc. I also met a guy in a chat room that was nice, as far as that goes for an active dark web user like himself, who verified/hashed some of the links that I had collected, and vaguely sent me in the direction of other sites for my personal use. This was a great help, and led me to my next site, which from the general morale of the site, is what I will consider the next layer of the gate into the dark web. Second site, brinkwarehouse.otc. Brink Warehouse was actually quite fascinating. Not horrific to an extent, but had a different kind of dark backlash. Brink Warehouse was a virtual warehouse of texture guides, notes, leaked documents, torrented books. One was released only a day after it was published, by quite a popular author. Now at a summary, this might seem alright, but take into account that the guides included things like how to make a drone-based homemade explosive and how to kidnap adolescents in their sleep. Illegal leaked documents galore, anywhere from US classified cases to foreign affairs. It also included guides on illegally modifying weapons, joining terrorist groups, guides to scripting and nulling bank accounts, so on and so forth. Not a fun site. The next site I headed to is where it starts to get formally creepy. The site with no name. I got access to this site, which I consider to be the start of the darkest of the dark web of the deep web. From France Stern 344, who was in a chat room on chit.chat, a very common deep web chat room site that most of you probably have already stopped in. Well, at least the people on the deep web. Well, talk comes to talk, and we end up on the topic of snuff films, how common they are, where they are usually filmed, and why. I get his trust, and we resume this chat in a private chat room that he had. It cost 0.10 BTC for a private chat room. And keep in mind that getting information was my main reason for chatting. I am not into snuff films, though they do fascinate me. We talked for a good 20 minutes before, without me even having to ask, he hooked me up with a site. I'm only going to use part of the site's name. So the site is called 5611. Now this site required an invite, extensive registration, questioning, and a one-on-one meeting with what I assume was the site director/admin. He or she was one harsh motherfucker, and the stern punishments for breaking the site's rules were laid out. The guy who invited me, France Stern 344, I guess was a longtime member on 5611, who had permission to take me on a tour of the site. I did ask for a formal site name for future reference, so I didn't have to call it 5611. And he said that the site had no name, and that it was purely based to display its content and moderate membership. The title, he said, would only make it easier to identify, which they did not want to happen. 5611 had a small membership that he said the runners of the site tried to cater to very fondly, as membership is 1.588 BTC monthly, approximately $355 US. Upon entering the site, I had to check the "Are you older than 18" box for the 5th time since I started signing up. Finally, I was in. The site's design was bland and blocky, with a pure white background and very close together text. In the top right corner, there were the options to log out and add funds to my balance, and then a small wallet that displayed an empty BTC client side balance. But that was barely on my mind. My mind was on the center of the screen. In a single row down the center of the screen, single frames with captions and a description took up most of the screen. The top one had a still of a table with various blades and blunt weapons laid out. The title, 24-year-old female, sleeping, suggests death, with a 2.25 BTC price tag along the side. A timer in green text was counting down. 11:51, 11:50, 11:49. Under the timer, in the same green font, was 78 of 100. A couple seconds later, the 78 turned into a 79. Realization hit me in the face like a bat. This was a paid snuff site. With a shaky hand, I scrolled down through the seemingly endless snapshots and captions. One caught my eye. Quick watch! Homeless. 0.22 Bitcoin. Large view. Low quality. It was like an attention-whoring YouTube title, but it seemed to be working. In the eerie green font, 783 of 1,000 was displayed. A jaw-dropping number in my eyes. I decided this needed to be documented, so I did a quick transaction and put 0.30 BTC in my site wallet and clicked on the arrow to enter. It took a minute or two to complete the transaction, and after about a 5-minute buffer, I was in the showing. There was no chat box, only a slightly lighter border of gray and static. The same green timer was now in the bottom right of the screen. 3, 2, 1. The squared blur revealed a city street. What seemed to be Arabic writing was on various shop signs and advertisements. Light from a street post gave a fuzzy glow to the scene. The cameraman, from the position of the camera, seemed to be leaning against a wall. The shot focused on a dinky red junker on the street curb. From the side of the camera view, a gloved finger points towards the entrance of a dark alley, where a man lays on his side, like a breathing pile of rags, obviously homeless and alone. The finger makes a motion towards the car, and 3 men quickly exit the car and walk along the storefronts towards the sleeping homeless figure. The quality is totally shit, but the scene can still be made out and is enhancing by my horrid imagination about what is to come. About 5 meters from the homeless man, the lanky group of thugs pull out plain white theater masks from their jackets, take out various small weapons, and pounce. It is horrible. My stomach barely holds on. I couldn't take it. Logging off Tor, I took a few more security measures and shut off my computer, taking some deep breaths and sipping from a Coors Light. The last site I went to on the dark web was Candy Palace. I logged on about a week later and never thought to go back on 5611. I never contacted any one of my past sites, and I knew in my heart that this would be my last visit to any site on the deep web. I was thoroughly encouraged to not go on because of 5611. That had really, in my mind, been the last straw. I had proven to myself that the dark web, even though it has some good parts, is really just a beacon of humanity's horrific actions. I had proven to myself like Site 5611 and other sites exist. But I felt the need to cover the last part of the dark web that in my mind was the worst of it. Child pornography. Candy Palace is a huge site. Do some digging and get some sources. You'll find it. After watching the videos, I have come to the conclusion that this is all hosted in one location in a foreign country. I always wondered that if there were all these snuff films and child sex slave dungeons that are often spoke about, that there would have to be a more suitable amount of missing children cases and unsolved murder cases to go along with them. Some research and asking around concluded that many of the film murders and children porn director rings are in fact in foreign countries, where getting away with these kinds of actions is a piece of cake, in the words of an aspiring director in a Candy Palace chat room. I will not go into specific detail about any one video on Candy Palace, only will lay out some of the basic stats and description and let you find the rest out for yourself, if you so please. The main chat room had several hundred chatters in total between the various sub-chats. They actually had a very detailed profile of each child. An example was Tasha, 9 years old, black hair, and then included a list of, if I remember correctly, 83 videos that she had starred in and counting. The children were usually smothered in makeup, and besides for what seemed to be like a designated 2 through 3 stars, not extremely physically hurt via evident beating. Double penetration, binding, gay, forced one-on-one, knife, roleplay, chamber, and dungeon were the top video tags. If I remember correctly, there were a total of 17 stars. Nobody ever brought up anything about if they were kidnapped, imported, or imprisoned. All anybody cared about was watching, so getting information on that topic was hard. Most of the scenes are filmed in various sets, such as era-style dungeons, surgery rooms, etc. No grimy bedrooms or warehouses or basements. Nothing that fits the common stereotype. It was basically Pornhub, with a pink, white, black color scheme, and 6 through 12-year-olds. It is a nightmare. In conclusion, I never look at people the same. Throughout taking this research-orientated trip through the dark web, my view on humanity has been changed. Every video I watched in the name of research chinked away at my emotions and often left me crying. Curiosity broke me, and it has been nearly a year since I have fully recovered. This is my, case file for research on this subject. Now, before you launch Tor and find these sites, please know, there is nothing enjoyable, entertaining, or at all suitable content on this network. You will be left in tears, you will be scarred, and worst of all, you will never view others the same. When I was still underage, 14 to be exact, I started to learn and find out about the deep web, or dark web, or whatever. It started out as me wanting to be cool because I was able to access it when I showed my friends. Also, to look at drug prices on different websites. Anyhow, eventually, I discovered the CP network, child pornography. Well, as a horny teenage boy, I started visiting the chat rooms pretty often. I didn't say much, just watch pedophiles talk about different things. Sometimes there would be link dumps of hundreds of different CP. I tried to resist from it knowing it was wrong, but I didn't hold out long with my tendencies. I started visiting the rooms more and more often, and getting to know more of the people on them. Hell, even started talking to a few. I can't remember when, but one day I was talking, and a guy asked me how old I was. I don't know why I didn't lie and tell him 49 or something, but I said 15. Well, he just so happened to have an interest in me, so we talked some more. And then I realized I kind of had a fetish, at the time, of maybe being handled by an older man. I ended up sending a few pics to him, no face shots, and he got off his computer for the night. A few more people messaged me the next night, and the next, and so on. I probably sent hundreds of pictures, and some videos, of me while using a shitty webcam I had. I talked to some of the darkest and most hated people on the earth, and didn't think twice about it. It all came to an abrupt end when my PC died, and I had to wait a couple of months to get a new one. During that time I had thought about it a lot, and decided it wasn't best for me to be doing that. Duh. and didn't install the next update to the deep web browser. I have never been able to tell anyone this due to its nature, but it feels good to get it off my chest. This will probably be buried, but I just thought I'd put it out there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I don't mean like the video as in you like child pornography or snuff films. I know I get that a lot in my comments. I mean like the video as in you like this topic. I try to base the videos I choose off of the like to dislike ratio. So from now on, if you like the topic featured in that video, or the way I read the story or any of that, leave a like for the video please. I understand a lot of the crap I do on here is pretty disturbing, so I would hope a lot of you don't like it. So that first story that I just read, I really think that's believable. That's probably one of the most not over the top stories I've found on the deep web. Well, I didn't find it on the deep web, the topic was on the deep web, but you get what I mean. The second one, I was wondering if it was a kid trying to get attention, but it was completely submitted anonymously, and like he mentioned, it was buried. No one really noticed it. So it kinda, in my eyes, added a little validity to it. Either way, that kid is an idiot, and I wanted to put it in there because I just kinda wanted to put it on blast. That if you have kids, they might be doing this kind of shit behind your back and you not know. I highly doubt it, but obviously someone's kid did. If it's true. Let me know what you thought of the stories down in the comments. Did you think the first one was a little more real than the other ones you've heard? And was the second one just fabricated, do you think? Or was that kid just a frickin' jackass? Either way, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.